Welcome to Police Beat, brought to you by the Palo Alto Police Department in conjunction with Silicon Valley Community Communications. I'm your host, Tom Merson, and hope that you enjoy this, our first program. Our intent is to bring you into the world of local law enforcement and expose you to perspectives that you might not otherwise have the opportunity to experience. We'll have regular features as well as special segments. So sit back, relax, and enjoy Police Beat.
Hi, I'm Agent Curtis Jackson of the Palo Alto Police Department Traffic Team. Welcome to Traffic Talk. With the threat of rolling blackouts always upon us, you may come to an intersection where the signal lights are not working. Today I want to talk to you and explain to you your legal obligations when and if you come upon that darkened intersection. According to 21800D1 of the Vehicle Code, the first thing you are required to do is come to a complete stop. And then, when it's safe, you may proceed through the intersection with caution. In other words, treat the intersection as if it were a four-way stop. And remember that the driver on the left is legally required to yield to the driver on the right. Another area of concern I would like to talk about is, what are the laws regarding motor vehicles driving in bicycle lanes? This is plain and simple. According to 21209A of the Vehicle Code, there are only 3 times when a motor vehicle can legally drive in a bicycle lane, and those times are if the driver intends to park along the curb and has to cross into the bicycle lane to do so, to enter or leave the roadway as if turning into or coming out of a driveway, when preparing to make a right turn and are within 200 feet of an intersection. And remember, a motor vehicle can never enter or drive in a bicycle lane to pass a slower vehicle, to pass stop traffic, or to pass a vehicle that may be making a left turn. And finally, for those of you who wonder if it's legal for a motorcycle to split lanes of traffic, the answer is yes. There currently is no Vehicle Code section that makes this an illegal maneuver. For Traffic Talk, I'm Agent Curtis Jackson.
Welcome to Police Profiles, where we take you behind the scenes to meet the men and women of local law enforcement. On our premiere show, we thought it would be appropriate to introduce you to Palo Alto's Police Chief, Pat Dwyer. Pat's been the chief for the past 3 years, coming to Palo Alto after serving a distinguished 30-year career with the San Jose Police Department, leaving that agency at the rank of captain. Pat, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tom.
I'd like to start by just asking you just a basic question about some of your background, your career in San Jose, if you could tell us about that.
Well, I've lived in San Jose all my life. I still live there. I went to San Jose schools, graduated from San Jose State, and when I was 21, actually while I was still going to college, I started working for San Jose PD and spent the next 29 and a half years working for that agency. My dad had been a San Jose PD detective, and actually my son is their first third-generation officer now.
So it was really your dad that got you interested in law enforcement?
I'm not sure it was, actually. I had a lot of career choices. He was not opposed to me becoming a police officer, but neither was he real excited about it. He was one of those fathers who said the right thing. You know, I'll support you no matter what you do. Get a college education first and be good at whatever you did. I think he was concerned about me coming into the business, having seen some of the things that he'd seen. I think it was probably just my exposure to the possibility of becoming a police officer through my dad and through some of his friends that I still hold in really high esteem that got me thinking about it.
Had you considered any other careers?
I actually did. As many people on the police department know, I spent a few years living at the Mary Knowles Seminary here in Mountain View, the one, that pagoda roof that you pass on Highway 280, and had thought about becoming a missionary at one time. And that phase lasted until I was about 16.
Okay.
And then after that, I had thought about a career in either teaching or law. I was particularly interested in becoming an English teacher, actually.
Okay, well, you had a long career in San Jose, 30 years.
Yes.
And you left San Jose at the rank of captain.
Yes.
Can you tell us about, say, one of your more memorable cases, perhaps one that the public would remember?
You know, people have asked me before, what is the most memorable case I ever worked on? And this is not the biggest case. It certainly wasn't the most trustworthy case, but it's the case I'm proudest of, because decisions that I and one of my investigators made actually made a huge impact in this one particular case. There was a situation on the border between San Jose and Campbell where a woman who was not familiar with the area took a walk late at night, probably shouldn't have, and was walking near a 7-Eleven on Campbell Avenue. And a suspect who was driving a pickup truck, jumped out of the pickup truck and grabbed a board and tried to assault the woman, knocked her on the head, and was trying to drag her into the cab of the truck. She was able to fend him off, and a passing motorist started to honk his horn to slow down, and the suspect drove off. So what we had was maybe an attempted kidnapping, certainly an assault with a deadly weapon, and no clues, no description. She was never able to see the suspect, and we had a vague description of the pickup truck. And I was a captain, or I was a lieutenant in charge of the assaults unit at that time. And when we reviewed the case, there weren't a lot of solvability factors. We didn't think it was a case that could be worked, and it could have easily gone on a back burner. And instead, we chose just to pursue the one lead we had, which was the truck, and we put out the description of the truck to local agencies, and we put it in the Daily Watch Bulletin. And first thing you know, I mean, officers in all kinds of jurisdictions were stopping white trucks that said Satellite on the back, and we found out quickly that Satellite was the maker of the truck beds. Coincidentally, though, one of the Satellite trucks that was stopped was registered to a business not too far away from where the crime occurred, and I dedicated a lot of resources to that crime. And we set up some surveillances and basically were able to solve the case. We got a suspect in custody. After we got the suspect in custody, we found out that he matched the description of a suspect wanted for 2 attempted murders in Santa Cruz County. Very similar MOs. And I really believe to this day that what we probably were able to do was stop a serial rapist murderer before that serial rapist murderer really was able to act out. And he's going to be in prison for a long time. Still there.
Sounds like a good case.
Great case. And the detective's name, he's retired now also, is Jim Moran. Great detective. Very tenacious man.
Let me ask you this. You've been here 3 years now. You were in San Jose for 30. How would you compare the two agencies in terms of policing style? What's different about Palo Alto versus San Jose?
I think that, well, clearly the biggest distinction between the two agencies is size. Palo Alto has 96 sworn authorized positions. We're not there right now, but we have 96 authorized. And San Jose is approaching 1,500 sworn officers, I think, now. So size and degree of specialization are two distinctions that immediately come to mind. In a community as large as San Jose, in a police department as large as San Jose, there's going to be a lot more specialization on the police department. You know, they have specialized units for everything, for gangs and for narcotics and for traffic investigations and for various community programs, and they're very specialized in their detective bureau. Palo Alto, by virtue of the small size of the department, can't afford that degree of specialization. So on one hand, we have less opportunities for our officers to move from patrol into a specialized unit. On the other hand, it's really positive because we get very, very well-rounded generalist officers who are very capable of working a patrol call 1 hour and the next hour becoming part of the evidence team or part of the traffic follow-up team on a fatality. So I think that the generalist skills of our officers are actually greater, especially our senior officers and our agents. They have the opportunity to do more because of the fact that we have less specialization.
Well, Pat, what about the cultures between the two agencies? Can you compare the police cultures between San Jose and Palo Alto?
Actually, comparing the organizational cultures is interesting because it was one of the biggest surprises I got. The cultures in the two agencies are entirely different. There are certainly some things that the officers in the field share regardless of where they work or which coast they work on. But in terms of just the culture that drives the agencies and the styles that drive the agencies are totally different. San Jose, because of their size and the degree of specialization they have, has a much more hierarchical, militaristic command structure.
Right.
And they're much more formal with regard to that structure. Well, Palo Alto tends to be very informal, very personal in the way that they do business. Their degrees to which both agencies are committed to community policing, or I shouldn't say the degrees, because both agencies are committed to community policing, but the application, the style of application of community policing philosophies is entirely different. Where San Jose does have high crime areas and blighted areas where the officers are permanently assigned and the officers become ingrained in the fabric of that neighborhood and know the people in the neighborhoods, and the people in the neighborhoods just embrace the officers in those neighborhoods, like the Project Crackdown areas. Palo Alto doesn't have blighted areas. It doesn't have areas where we really have geographically focused crime problems. So we don't have that same level of embracing the neighborhood officer that San Jose does. What we have instead is kind of a department-wide commitment to total customer service, where patrol, detectives, the front desk, everybody here answers to a very high standard in terms of delivering customer service, courtesy, being responsive.
Right.
It's not as much crime-driven as it is customer service-driven and community expectation-driven, I think, in Palo Alto.
Okay. We're going to have to take a short break at this point. We'll be right back after this.
It takes talented people to create movie fires like this scene from Backdraft. But in real life, fire isn't such a pretty picture. So think fire prevention, because in real life, you write the script. A message from the International Association of Firefighters.
Welcome back to Police Profiles. Pat, we were talking about when you came to Palo Alto. When you first came, what were some of the challenges that you met? What were some of the problems you encountered?
Well, let me answer that question in two ways. I'll divide it into kind of internal things, organizational things,
Okay.
and service delivery things. I think in terms of service delivery, there was a lot that everybody was already doing right. And we already had the capacity to respond to major crimes, great detectives, great crime scene techniques, great traffic officers, and good leadership in the field. So I think in terms of service delivery in those areas, we were doing well. In terms of looking at some of those problems, maybe in a little broader context, like, what do we do about the problem of traffic, congestion, and cut-through drivers and things like that in Palo Alto, there are some major challenges that we have to face. And those are challenges that we'll face with other city departments and with the community, trying to come up with appropriate responses. I think the emphasis on traffic and the emphasis on downtown enforcement were two things that were really presented to me early on as really high priorities. And I think that we've done a good job generally with those things. Internally, I think, is where I got my greatest challenges, because I think as I say, we're already doing a good job of delivering service. But to develop the organization and to develop capacity to deal with new problems in a changing environment, I think was probably my greatest challenge. The department, I think, was very, how can I say this tactfully, very challenged in terms of technology. It was the last department in the county to get a computer-assisted dispatch system, and it had a records management system that wasn't linked to the dispatch system, and that technology isn't even state of the art. We weren't even on the cutting edge of maybe the 80s or the 90s yet. And that technology is now in place. And I think one of the things that we did to address the technology issue was to create a third division on the police department. We had patrol and detectives. Now we have tech services. And I brought in just an outstanding civilian manager to sit at the level of a captain and to run that division. And she has basically addressed a lot of those technology issues. In terms of organizational development, creating that third division was important. Bringing back a special problems team or a crime suppression unit is something that we have done, and we haven't been able to do it as much to the extent that I'd like to do it because of staffing problems. But we have very talented sergeant and two officers who are working to support detectives and support patrol units on special assignments, and they're proving to be extremely productive. That was a great move. Adding to the traffic team, as I indicated, traffic is a large priority, and we've added 2 motorcycles since in the last couple of years. I guess it was 2 years ago in the budget we got 2 additional motorcycle officers, and those officers are now on the street impacting traffic.
And that brings our total of motorcycle officers up to
7. And we don't have a quota. No.
a traffic quota, a
We
traffic
don't have
ticket quota?
We let them write as many as they like.
Okay, that's a question that the public often wonders about.
We don't have a quota. It's actually illegal to have a quota.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this. There have been a lot of discussions in the city about infrastructure. How can we as a police department support that at the same time that we're looking for a police building?
Whoa. That's a tough one, because when I got here and I was interviewing for the job, one of the questions I asked is, what are the priorities that you have for the new chief? And the city manager at that time, June Fleming, said, I want you to build a new police building. Well, I've been here three years, and we don't even have a firm location yet, so it's very frustrating to me. And it's equally frustrating to my officers to not be able to have a modern, well-functioning police building. Let me just say that the building we're in now is functionally obsolescent. It does not serve our needs. It does not serve the needs of this community, and we are hampered in some of our attempts to deliver service by the limitations of that building. It's simply a 30-year-old police building that not only doesn't meet today's needs, but can't be upgraded in its current configuration to meet today's needs, because the building, being 30 years old, has an infrastructure that doesn't even support added technology. So we're facing some major challenges there. The City Council is committed to building a new police facility, but at the same time the City Council made that commitment, problems with the funding of infrastructure and long-term financing for other capital projects have become an equally important priority. So I think that what we've had to do is integrate our plans to build a new police building with the long-term financial plan for the city and with the present city manager's plans to improve infrastructure in the short term and in the long term. And given the problems that Frank Benest and Carl Yates, our finance director, have faced, the solutions that I believe they've come up with are outstanding. We're still a priority. We're going to get a new police facility, and I'm sure that everybody that I talk to in the community, at community meetings, and council people that I talk to, all support the building of a new police facility. Everybody recognizes the need, but over the last year or two, especially over the last year, we've recognized that we have to integrate that need with other capital needs that the city has. We'll be going to council actually next month sometime with some recommendations to pick a location, and that will be at least one concrete step towards the creation of a really up-to-date police facility that should serve our needs a lot better.
So it's a complicated issue.
It's very complicated. Financing and location and architecture are issues that are very complicated, and there are a lot of different constituencies that we have to please with the decisions we make.
What one thing would you like the public to know about the police department?
I think because this is a relatively low-crime community and most folks don't have a lot of interaction on a daily basis with the police, this community really doesn't have a personal knowledge and experience of how great this police department is. This is a truly great police department. I've been in this business for 33 years, and I've managed task forces, and I've worked with agencies at the local level and state and federal agencies, and I'll stack these people up against any agencies I've ever worked with. These are really great police officers. They give good service to the public, and I would just like to leave the public with that message, that they have a great police department staffed by very dedicated, very talented people. And the fact that they don't see them on a daily basis is probably a tribute to the good job that they are doing.
I want to thank you, Pat, for being on the show. Enjoyed it.
I'm honored to be your first guest, Tom.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. We will be right back after this.
Hello, I'm Lieutenant Venable with the Palo Alto Police Department, and I am here on a special segment of Emergency 911 Center. And I'm joined by Charlie Cullen, who is the coordinator of the Palo Alto Communications Center. And Charlie, just start off this segment by asking you, when should someone dial 911?
Well, Mark, that's a question we often get. When is it appropriate to call 911? And the standard answer is when there is a direct threat to life or property. But we would prefer that people don't hesitate to call or split hairs over what the emergency is. If you feel there's an emergency, don't hesitate to call 911.
Now, I know from working on the streets, Charlie, that often you keep people on the phone line when they dial 911. So as someone is dialing, or once they get through to a 911 emergency dispatcher, what types of questions are you going to be asking, and what types of things should they be thinking about prior to calling?
Well, Mark, the first thing we're going to find out is where you are. Although we do have some of that information that we get through the 911 system, we want to confirm where you are and where the actual emergency is. Is it occurring where you're calling from, or is it another location nearby, or even farther away in another city? We often do get calls like that. So the first thing the dispatcher is going to confirm is the location of the emergency. Second, what is the nature of the emergency? Is it a fire, a medical problem? Is it a police emergency of some sort? Those are the questions we'll be asking, and then we'll get into more detail. What's involved, who's involved, how many people, are there any vehicles involved, is there a description of any suspects? We have quite an extensive list of questions that we will ask. One of the things I would like to stress is that although a dispatcher may be asking you a lot of questions, there are other dispatchers in the center that will be dispatching help, be it for a medical, fire, or a police emergency. Well, the dispatcher you're talking to keeps you on the line to get additional information for the officers or firefighters that are responding.
So if the dispatcher is asking me a series of questions, it doesn't mean that the police or the paramedics aren't responding. Another dispatcher at the same time is sending the emergency units out.
Absolutely. In a true emergency that requires an immediate response, we will put it out immediately. Another dispatcher will put out the basic information and get the police personnel or the fire and paramedics rolling right away while we get additional information to give the units en route so they know the situation they're going into.
Now, Charlie, you mentioned one of the first things you do is to confirm where someone is calling from. In the 911 center, do you know where I'm calling from and what number I am dialing from?
We do, Mark. As part of the 911 system, there's a screen which shows the telephone number and address that the person is calling from. However, we want to confirm that. Occasionally there is some misinformation on there, and it is part of the dispatcher's job to confirm that information and make sure they know exactly where you are.
And here in Palo Alto, I know when I'm responding to calls in our police cars, we have computers. And much of the information that the dispatchers are obtaining from people calling on the 911 lines is immediately sent out to us, the responding officers, with the pertinent information that's coming in. Does that change anything with the dispatchers and how they take the calls or relay information to the police or paramedic units in the field?
Well, yes, Mark. If it's an immediate emergency, we will send out the address and the basic facts, and then we can update the incident en route. We create an incident on the computer-aided dispatch system and send it directly out to the cars. The officers, as you know, have a computer in the car, basically, and we can send them the full incident so they can look at it, and as additional comments are added, they can also bring those up.
And Charlie, if I should accidentally dial 911 and an emergency dispatcher's answers, what should I do?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, because probably half of our calls every day are misdials to the 911 system. We'd prefer that you stay on the line and let us know that everything's okay. If we detect something out of the ordinary, we probably will send an officer by to check on your welfare. But if you just hang up and we can't get back in touch with you, then we're obligated to send an officer out, and that takes up valuable time and resources.
So if I dial 911 and nobody's there, we will send an officer out to that location and to check on that house or residence.
That's correct.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Charlie, for making the time today and to share with us a little bit about the 911 Emergency Center and what you should think about when you dial 911 and the types of questions that you'll be asked. I'm Lieutenant Venable, and this concludes our special segment of the Emergency 911 Center.
Hi, I'm Agent Sandra Brown. Welcome to Crime on the Street, the crime analysis segment of Police Beat. The following information has been provided by the Palo Alto Crime Analysis Unit. There were 11 auto burglaries in the city of Palo Alto between April 25th and May 7th. In-dash car stereos were the items of choice in all of these thefts. Suspects in these cases are still at large. 9 vandalism cases were reported throughout all areas of Palo Alto. Damage consisted of broken windows, scratches to automobiles, and damage to trees in a park in the Beat 3 area. I'd like to talk about a person that has been missing for a few days. On May 12th, 15-year-old Nancy Cortez attended a birthday party at the Park Plaza Hotel in Burlingame. Nancy was seen in the company of an unknown male. As of May 13th, Nancy has not returned home. Any information leading to the location of Nancy Cortez can be reported to the San Mateo Police Department. This has been Crime on the Street, and I'm Agent Sandra Brown.
Hi, my name's Pat Dwyer, and as a regular feature of the monthly television program that the Palo Alto Police Department is going to produce for our community, I've been asked to touch on some brief topics that kind of update the community on some current events, contemporary happenings in the police department. And this month, what I'd like to highlight is something probably most of the community doesn't know about, and that's National Dispatchers Month. Since 1991, when Congress designated the second week in April as National Dispatchers Month, communication centers, 911 communication centers across the country have celebrated that second week as National Dispatchers Month. And I think that it's really appropriate that we do so, because if there's really any unsung heroes in our business, it's got to be the 911 dispatchers. Palo Alto is authorized to have 21 dispatchers. We have 12 because of the hiring shortages that we have and the recruitment and retention issues that all government agencies are facing in Silicon Valley. Those 12 dispatchers are working 12-hour shifts voluntarily, working weekends and holidays to guarantee that our community has the best 911 dispatch center that we can possibly provide. The 911 dispatchers work in the basement of the police building in a room that we fondly call the dungeon. It has not been remodeled, I don't think, since the building was built about 30 years ago. We are, however, in the process of totally gutting the room and turning our 911 dispatch center into what will be a state-of-the-art center, and that project is scheduled to be completed in July of this year, just a couple of months away. The project's being coordinated by our new technical services coordinator, Cheryl Contoy, and she's being assisted by her dispatch supervisors, Charlie Cullen and Laurel Saragusa. One of the things that I'd like to mention that's particularly noteworthy about National Dispatchers Month is two dispatchers from the Palo Alto Police Department won really noteworthy awards last week at the County Dispatchers Luncheon, and that was Don Greenwell and Kurt Shepard, and both of those men were honored for their outstanding work over the past year. So I'd like you, as the community we serve, to join me and the staff of the Palo Alto Police Department in really honoring our dispatchers and wishing them a happy National Dispatchers Week. Thanks.
Hi, we're out at the Palo Alto Animal Shelter, and we're talking to Sandy Statler, the superintendent. Hi, Sandy.
Hi.
Tell us, what does somebody do if they want to adopt an animal?
Well, animals like Cosmo here are up for adoption at the shelter, and the first thing we would tell people is you need to come down and actually see who we have for adoption at the time. The animals and the numbers of animals we have really varies day to day. It costs $60 to adopt an animal like Cosmo or a cat, but what you get with that $60 is the animals are spayed and neutered, they are microchipped, they have their initial vaccinations, you get a free vet exam at your vet, and you also get a collar and tag.
Sounds like a pretty comprehensive set of services.
It's a good deal.
What other things does the shelter do?
Well, we have a spay and neuter clinic, which is open to all residents, regardless of where they live. And it is the place where people can come to get animals spayed and neutered as young as 8 weeks. That is a new trend that is happening. We also have a vaccination clinic once a week on Wednesdays.
And people can also volunteer if they wish to work at the shelter, isn't that true?
Absolutely. In fact, we would not be able to offer the quality care that we do without our wonderful volunteers. I actually started as a volunteer many, many years ago, but the volunteers, they walk the dogs, they socialize the cats, they help us in the office. They just do wonderful work.
Well, thanks, Andy. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's it from the Palo Alto Animal Shelter. Thanks for watching Police Beat. We hope you enjoyed the program and look forward to seeing you next time.